What was that song about? Searching for the hero.
Where?
Inside yourself.
Inside yourself. Inside yourself. You know, there's that old story about the truth of man's being. We want to hide it from him. Where shall we hide it? And the one person says, well, let's hide it at the bottom of the sea. And they said, you know, one day man's going to figure out how to get to the bottom of the sea and he'll find it. Well, what about, we'll hide it at the top of the highest mountain. Well, no, man's going to figure out how to get to the top of the highest mountain. What about outer space? Nah, you know, he's going to figure out how to get there. I know the perfect place to hide it. Inside him. They'll never look there. You want to hide something from a Unity member? Hide it in their Bible. They'll never find it. Hide it from an alcoholic, put it in the big book. And for us, you know, so often, you want to hide it, put it right in front of you. You want to hide the truth from a new thoughter, put it right smack in front of them. And they'll never notice it. And it's today's talk title is called Supermind. Supermind, which has to do with superconscious mind. Unity is a philosophy for spiritual living. And what is and I looked up philosophy because I want to get the exact definition. I think that's easier. Oh, I'll read you this. David sent me this my goodness. David sent me this today. Remember that you are absolutely unique, just like everyone else. So philosophy literally means love of wisdom. It is the study of general and fundamental problems concerning matters such as existence, knowledge, values, reason, mind, and language. They say the term was probably coined by Pythagoras. Philosophical methods include questioning, critical discussion, rational argument, and systematic presentation. Classic philosophical questions include, is it possible to know anything and to prove it? What is most real? However, philosophers might also pose more practical and concrete questions such as, is there a best way to live? Is it better to be just or unjust if one can get away with it? Do humans have free will? And so this is the spiritual philosophy that Unity addresses, and Charles Fillmore, Unity's co-founder, said, yes, it is possible to prove it. And it is possible to know something, maybe even everything, and it is possible to prove it. However, I don't know that it's possible to describe it sufficiently. I don't know that we can put it into words accurately, that it wouldn't limit it. And can we bear that? Can we bear the discomfort that we can only know about it, really, in our words? However, we can prove it in our living. We can prove it in our practice. We can prove it. You know, I'll use sobriety as an example. That someone, you know, how did you stay sober all this time? Well, I went to AA meetings. Really? And what else? Why, I got a sponsor. Really? And what else? Well, I read the big book and I read the literature. Really? What else? Well, I got down on my knees and prayed. Really? And then this person says, no, I did all that and I still drank. Well, wait a minute. This was the proof of how it works. Well, I just proved it didn't. Well, then how did you stay sober? Well, I don't know then. I just know so far so good. That's what I know. You know, we can tell the newcomer, you do this, you do this, you do this. And somebody comes into unity. Well, how you do it? Well, love God. Really? I don't know how to do that. Well, what you do is you read Lessons in Truth, and you get yourself a metaphysical Bible dictionary, and you understand all of the metaphysical terms, and you do all the, but I don't like reading that stuff. Oh, well, then you're sunk. Or the person that just comes in and loves it, and everything changes. And it's so easy. It's so easy for some, and it's not so easy for others. And it's not necessarily that the one it's not easy for is not doing it right. It took me a long time to learn that. A very long time to learn that the one who isn't happy yet is doing it wrong. This is their journey. And I can't explain it. I work with somebody in the 12-step fellowship who's just been throwing a fit for almost a year now. And they just got their year anniversary. And I kept saying, read the big book. But I don't like the big book. I don't like the words in it. I don't like the old-timey talk in it. And I said, okay, well, go to meetings and learn from people who have read it. I don't like meetings. I don't like those people. Yeah, I understand. Well, then either you're screwed, or you can go try it. And I had to laugh because he went to a meeting last Monday, and the speaker said, everything you need to know is in the big book. On Tuesday, he opened his big book along with an audio recording of it. And so he's hearing it while reading it. He's almost through the book now. And he's loving it. And he said, I'm on every page that I read. You know, when the click happens, the click happens for our joy. And so, to take this philosophy and prove it for yourself, because Charles Fillmore said, either I can communicate directly with Source, or the whole thing is a fraud. This whole concept is a fraud. And so you see, each of us is responsible for proving it. And I so encourage each of us to prove it beyond, oh, I got a check this week. Oh, I got a job. Oh, I got a relationship. Oh, I got something. Take it all the way to the realization that I have the source of the job. I have the source of the money. I have the source of the body. I have the source of health. I have the source. And it's in my mind. That's what we all need to do, so that when we falter, we know the truth and where to go back to the truth. When I began my healing journey, I really, my first year of that, I just said, I'm going to be a baby. And if I can't have a decent conversation, well then fine, I don't care. I'm going to keep learning how to do this. I'm going to keep studying from people who are happy doing it. From people who have found solutions to things. I will keep studying and studying, and my joy meter kept going up and up to the point where I became kind of annoying. Even to the people who were happy. And they thought, this is just too easy. This is too easy for this guy. And it's not that it was so easy, it was just that I was so blessed with willingness. I was wildly blessed with willingness because I had had enough of misery. The misery was not paying off the way I had hoped. You know, being right and being alone was not paying off the way I thought it might. And I wasn't prospering. I wasn't evolving. I didn't feel loved. And so therefore I had to switch everything. Now didn't have a term like supermind back then. Super consciousness. I didn't know any of that stuff. I had a term God, and I didn't know that at that point that God was love itself, but I had heard that God's will for me was to be happy, joyous, and free, and I sure liked that. And I believed in this entity. I stopped calling it a person. I stopped calling it he, but I believed in this entity that was completely willing I be happy. And then I walked into the doors of Unity and I found out this same entity always thought I was good. And thought the people I didn't like were good too. Not thought, knew, considered, and that could not reconsider it. To find, and I know I've said it so many times here, but I can't reiterate it enough, to be reassured that I am capital G good, have always been and will always be, and it has nothing to do with how I feel or how I have behaved. Well, let me tell you something, that gets me personally on board with better behavior. I want to know that feeling no matter what. I want to know that urge in my being that reminds me, wait a minute, Shawn, you can make a higher choice here and make it confidently rather than trying to get away with something and hope nobody sees. Because that was the story of my childhood. Just, I'm going to hope nobody sees, and I'm going to take what I want and do what I want, and hopefully nobody's looking who will shame me for it. Because that was the worst for me, is to be shamed. It wasn't to get caught. It was to be shamed for having, you should know better. You should, well, maybe. But you're not the best example, quite frankly, people. And so I don't trust you. I didn't trust my adults. Because they were not the shining example. They hadn't proved the principle true of how to get away with rigorous honesty. Imagine that you never had to be afraid to tell anyone the truth. Now, truth is not, what do you think of my outfit? I hate it. That's not truth, that's opinion. But to tell, if for some reason somebody thinks it's their business of how many cupcakes you ate today, or how much money you spent, that you could either say, it's really none of your business, or, I had 6 cupcakes, thank you for asking. And you didn't have to worry about their reaction. You might not need 6 cupcakes tomorrow. If you weren't ashamed of having 6 cupcakes today, or buying whatever today, or whatever today. That there was no longer that shame or that guilt, that I was looking for something to fill this big God-shaped hole here. And I wasn't trying to fill it with God. I forgot to try to that was too uncomfortable to sit and fill it up with what I know as God, so I tried to fill it up with carbohydrates or a good credit card at Macy's. And so what if I didn't have to do that? What if I was so confident in divine mind or supermind within me that I knew, wait a minute, I am good. And I'm not going to use you today to let me think I'm not good. And I'm not going to use you for that. I'm not going to use you for that. I won't use you either. And I'm sorry I used you yesterday for that. I apologize. But I'm not going to use anybody else today to get me to think I'm not good. I am a God being. What's the story Janet tells about her granddaughter? Oh, that they wanted to use she wanted to use the big potty?
No, there were all very high toilets in her house. And one day her 3-year-old granddaughter stood up on a toilet and said, "There is no toilet that is too high for me."
So there is no toilet too high for me.
And her grandmother, instead of saying, "Get down from there before you hurt yourself," said, "That's right." And the girl jumped off the toilet, put her arms around herself and said, "I just love myself."
And there we go. How often do you hug yourself? Say, "I just love myself." Let's do it now. Go. I just love myself. Do it when you're alone, too. Do it when you're alone. Look in the mirror. I just love myself. And then you might say, "Do I?" And if you think, well, not so much, then that's what you want to work on. See, that's what you want to work on within this philosophy. Is it's possible to love myself How could I do it? What thoughts do I need to think to love myself today? What are the thoughts I need to think? Because I fully believe that we can communicate with any and all aspects of physicality and mind. I have a friend right now who's struggling with medication. They've been on a good bit of it. And they were very concerned. They were getting out of it and very moody. And I said, you know, why don't you start talking to your medication? Ask it what you need and what you can now let go of. Because you're not the same person you were when it was prescribed. Talk to it. You know, talk to your home. What's right for me now? And what's no longer right for me to keep in this home? Talk to your, the relationship in your head you have with other people. And say, what's right for me to still be saying in this relationship? And what's right for me to not be saying anymore? That I don't have to keep using these words and these thoughts and these actions. That I can start in my superconscious mind. I can remember God is active and present here. And those of you who have not been here before, I do want to let you know, God, to me, is a word that we humans made up in order to communicate the highest. Because not everybody on the planet uses the word God to indicate the highest. But the highest is still the highest. And it's a word that was made up many years ago out of actually a vibration that means good. But you still use the word God, but it represents intelligence. It represents power. It represents presence. It represents love. And all the love that is, all the power that is, all the intelligence that is, all the presence that is. So therefore it is love itself, presence itself, power itself, intelligence itself. And if that is the image and likeness that I am made in, because I like that belief, that I am made in the image and likeness of intelligence, the power of presence. And so to begin to look at things that way, rather than, I gotta wait around for somebody to get to me that's from outer space, and eventually they'll get here. I cannot do that. So here we go. Charles Fillmore's definition of supermind. The Christ consciousness, the mind that knows all and is able to accomplish all things because it is one with the mind of God. Now, let's take health as an example. If the supermind is in me, then that mind within me knows how to experience health, how to experience well-being. It knows all. And so I would do well not to give it arguments. If I ask supermind within me, it's not a mind separate from me. Divine mind, supermind within me. Tell me about health for me. Then I need to start listening rather than saying, yeah, but. Yeah, but. Yeah, but you don't know what they did to me, and so therefore I have to be sick to protect myself. That's no longer the case. Yeah, but I've always been sick. Yeah, that's no longer the case. Yeah, but at 9 months I had pneumonia, and therefore I always have to have a cold this time of the year. That's no longer the case. Because, as our friend Carlos Anderson says, you have now been informed. That's no longer the case. You were informed right here, right now, in case you didn't know before today. Take the information and use it. Love it. And say, oh wow, I've been set free. I've been offered an alternative to an old way of thinking. And this is how we're going to transform ourselves and therefore our perception of planet Earth. Now, another teacher says, thoughts are things. It is because thoughts are things that we can observe and talk about the law of mind action and the formative power of thought. The relationship of a human being to things holds true for the realm of thoughts. Things come and things go. Some things belong to us and some do not. Some things cause harm, others are blessings. All these observations about things are also true about thoughts, for they are things. All thoughts that come to us do not belong to us. Do you understand what that means? Some of the thoughts that come to you do not belong to you. You have taken them from another. You have taken them from another who believes in limitation. You know, often we took them as children from the adults who didn't know better. They didn't go to Unity. They were a long way away from a 12-step program. But they had these thoughts that they took from another that did not belong to them. And on down the line, all the way, as I like to say, that stupid Adam and Eve, who forgot early on, pushed out of the garden. And so to realize, oh, these thoughts of limitation are not mine. I'm not going to keep them any longer. These thoughts that I don't have enough, I'm not going to keep them any longer. A way I keep proving it is to go through my closets and drawers and let things go that are no longer mine. You know, those things that when you put them on and say, dear Lord, what was I thinking? Or those things you put on and say, well, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, they were amazing. I put on a shirt the other night. I gave away a whole bunch of like pullover shirts this week. And one I put on that I dearly loved and felt so good about when I bought it. And I bought it like 50 pounds ago, and it's too big on me now. What did that thing look like on me when I bought it? And I was like, oh my goodness. And I loved it. I've been keeping it all this time. I haven't worn it 3 or 4 years. And I thought, I'm going to let it go. Even though I liked it so much, it's so unusual, and somebody else needs to enjoy this, because it's not mine. How many things in your home are no longer yours, just as how many things are in your thought bank that are no longer yours? They don't belong to you, they don't fit, they don't look good on you, and they sound awful coming out of your mouth. And so to observe that, thoughts are things. And let me start clearing out the things with gratitude. May have fit then, doesn't now. May have looked good then, doesn't now. Do you know how many expressions I used when I was 23 years old in a bar that I could no longer get away with now? You understand? That says we can begin doing our own thinking. That's quite a high attainment, because much rarer than we may realize, when we are really doing our own thinking, we receive much new inspiration and guidance, because we are then generating an energy that will let more light into our minds. And finally, most of us believe that we live in only 3 states of consciousness: wakefulness, sleep, and dreaming. But there is so much more. There's the super consciousness that can become active and present all the time. To look at it and realize, oh, I am continuously influenced by how I may behave in truth, meaning that which does not change, rather than limited thinking, fearful thinking, grasping thinking, that I have to, survival thinking. I guess that's what it, I grew up as trying to survive rather than live, and I kept insisting, but I'm going to live, and then people bigger than me would say, but no, but I kept pushing forward, and here we are today because of that push forward. And there's a biblical backup to this, which I want to read. It's actually from the Holy Spirit's interpretation of the New Testament, and it comes from Matthew 6, verse 25. And it says, therefore, do not worry. Therefore, do not worry about which way you should go or what you should do next. Do you hear that? Do not worry. Doesn't mean do not consider. Do not worry about which way you should go or which way you should do next. Instead, ask now for the surety of the light to what you should do next. Instead, ask now for the surety of the light to light the way for your next step. Be concerned only with letting your steps be led. For by following the guidance of the light, you will surely be walking the way of life. For the light and life are one. But if you let your mind be distracted by other concerns, and you begin to worry about troubles within the world, you will forget to step carefully with the light, and you will run frantically into the dark. Then you shall look around and realize that once more you're lost. For you cannot find the path of life without the guidance of the light. For the light and the life are one. If you have lost one, you are lost from the other. So what I want to encourage each of us today is to remember, I have light, and I can call for it now. Because some of us don't know we have light. We have the light. The light is the hero within that we've been searching for. For everything. For absolutely everything. There is no matter too large or too small that we cannot call upon the light within us. And so, I really encourage us to remember, I have light. Would you say that with me? I have light. Say it again. I have light. One more time. I have light. So it is.